I became an RD in Ormston in 1990 and did that until 95. I had just gotten married before I moved in. I was only 22 years old, just out of college, and trying to act maybe just a little bit older than the guys that live there. In some cases, I wasn't. But yeah, Ormston was a special place, and I like to think of it as a brotherhood. And it really was. It was a family. The lounge is like a family room. The area outside of the building was our front yard, and just so fun. Just a great place to be. Oh, what was my favorite event or tradition at Ormston? You know, one that was really simple, and I didn't start it, and I guess that's what makes a tradition good, right? It was handed down to me, but it was the Ormston Tabernacle Choir. And it was the last chapel before Christmas. And all the guys practiced the night before for this one number that we would do. Generally, I think the song changed, but what I remember is God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, which was in a good tone for the guys to sing. Finishing it, of course, with, "Oh, man." It was just a riot, and the place would go crazy. My favorite memory of Ormston. My first daughter, Brianne, was born while I lived in Ormston, and some of the guys, one of whom was another RD of a future RD of Ormston Hall, Robbie Bolton, actually came and stopped by the birthing suite up at Foot Hospital in Jackson. And they weren't supposed to do that. I don't know how they got on the floor, but they did. And they offered me pizza because it had been, a long night for me because that labor took so long. But again, just the brotherhood and having those guys stop by, and yeah, just really special.
I'll name a couple if that's all right. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people say Porch Fest, and that's kind of a given, I think, if you're from Ormston. But as a student, I remember one of the favorite things was the Ormston Beta snowball fight. And that happened the first packable snowfall that came, and it's just kind of the word spread throughout the dorm, like, hey, it's happening. Everybody get all their stuff on, and we'd usually meet kind of between here and Lowell Hall. Sometimes we'd go to Lowell Hall to get us started. Sometimes they come here, but that was just like a fun, youthful thing to do and blow some steam off. And so, as a resident director here, one of my favorite events was the library had been built, the new library. They had moved out of the old library, so it was just empty. Nothing was in there yet. And so we and my RAs had the idea to do like a lock-in kind of a thing. So one of the things that we rented a bouncy boxing inflatable. We put it inside, and we had our own wrestling tournament. We did weight classes, we had weigh-ins, and it was just like we stayed there all night and brought food in and did other things. But anyway, the old library lock-in was one of my favorite events. I was a 01 guy, and I forget what the mascot was before, but we turned it into 01 Dogs, DAWGS. And so I think just being on 01, there was a great group of guys that stretched me, that I learned a ton from, and exposed me to different cultures, different ways of life, different ways of thinking. And so I think just being on that floor and just hanging out with those guys and getting to know them was probably my favorite memory.
My favorite memory was a prank war that we had with a hall in Andrews. So we had purchased a 8-foot tapestry of Bill Murray, and we had it hanging in our hall on O2, and they stole it from us. So to get back at them, we went over to Andrews at like 4 a.m. We brought my buddy's guitar amp and his phone. We blasted Ghostbusters, and we pounded on all the doors and was running through the hallway screaming. And then we fled, which was great. We got a fine for breaking quiet hours, which, I'd pay that again. But the worst part was getting the email from Jeff Tabone saying, "Hey guys, disappointed in you." That broke my heart, but it was a great memory. So last thoughts, I'd say another great memory from Porch Fest. When I hosted, we'd throw hot dogs, which was a tradition at Porch Fest. And my last time we did it, we decided to include some sliced cucumbers in the mix. So people would open it expecting a hot dog and they get a cucumber. And me and my roommate were trying to throw as far into the back as we could. So I, wound up my arm and was trying to beat him. I was trying to hit the back wall, and I released the cucumber, and it went right into the front row and hit a girl in the face, which is just, that image is seated into my brain forever of just a cucumber hitting her in the face. But other than that, I'd say go Gamecocks, 0-2.
Porch Fest is the most popular. I expect many interviewed will say Porch Fest is their favorite event or tradition. But there was a little known event called Step Fest that was a rival to Porch Fest. They tried to do it right on the steps, and they tried to do it in the winter. It didn't take off. There was a lot of animosity. They were trying to bury Porch Fest. I thought they could have worked in tandem together. But yeah, Step Fest was probably my favorite event. Also, doing it in mid-January, I think, was a problem. There's only guys, unlike Lowell. Lowell had both genders. Ormston was the only place during my time where there was only men in the building. And so having only men in the building led to just a unique odor. And that's why I've created Oh Man, a fragrance specifically designed to celebrate 80 years of Ormston. It'll help you remember those great days when you were 20 years old and you lived in a place where your roommate and the guy across the hall needed a life coach to help him with those hygiene issues. Oh man. Anything else I'd like to share about Ormston? Brian, I just want to remind everyone about Oh Man at RobbieBolton.com for $19.95, limited quantities. Although if you call now, you can get bulk orders and get a case delivered to your home in advance of this Ormston Hall reunion. Some animals, when they're mating, use pheromones. Oh Man is a fragrance designed with anti-pheromones to remind you of your experience as an Ormston man, where this odor keeps women away from you. Oh Man. Speaking of the 1990s.
But I suppose the legacy deal is Porch Fest. And of course, it became larger than life, and it didn't start that way. It was meager beginnings, and I don't even know where. I mean, we had the porch out here, and just looking for a random name, and it was really quite, calm the first year. We grilled hot dogs on the porch, had an outdoor movie, and there wasn't much else. It was the second year, I think, that we decided to start adding skits. Let's have some entertainment, and then it grew from there. Our first skit, I do remember, Chariots of Fire, the movie had just come out. And so we opened by a bunch of, I and the RAs got white boxers and white t-shirts, and they played the soundtrack, and we kind of came running in slow motion across the but it was kind of it slowly built over the years, and I'd have to blame the other, or maybe give credit to the other RDs for ramping it up. All the years of, the being hosted out here, the guys on the couch. I don't know when that tradition started of the hosts, doing that, but I guess I can, take the blame for starting the whole thing. I mean, we had, pride over here, kind of that undercurrent of competition with Lowell and who we are. And I think the guys over here had that sense they were the underdogs for some reason, that, maybe, I don't know, the athletes stayed over there, their own unique character here. And that seemed to resonate more. I mean, there was floor identity, but there was also the dorm as a whole. Hey, we're Ormston, we're the home in, rather than, really kind of separate floors. Even though the floors were broken up for intramurals and so on, there was still more unity.
Probably one of the things that wasn't too well known was that the relationship between Ormston and Muffet. Again, we kind of made our own social life, apart from electronics. And so we were always going over there for parties. The Christmas party, the Ormston Muffet Christmas party was a big deal. One year it'd be in Ormston, and the other year it'd be in Muffet. And I remember the one year that it was in Muffet, all the guys met in Ormston Lounge, and Frank Pasick had his accordion. And so he started playing his accordion, singing Christmas carols, and all the guys in Ormston marched together across over to Muffet for the party, following Frank Pasick while he's playing his Christmas carols on his accordion. Another thing was intramurals. Intramurals were huge. Again, the relationship in Ormston and Muffet, again, like when people would talk about the difference between Ormston, Muffet, and Lowell, just different kind of cultures. Part of Ormston's culture was its relationship with Muffet and vice versa. And one of the things that we really supported each other on was our intramurals. If the girls had an intramural and volleyball match, the guys went and cheered them on. So it was really a special relationship between them. I'm not sure they're favorites, but they're memories. One of the traditions was that if you announce your engagement, chances are you might get carried over to Lime Lake and thrown in, minus your clothes. So before you announce your engagement, you want to get some clothes, put it in a plastic bag, go hide it over at Lime Lake. And that's what I did, because Becky and I announced our engagement, and my eyes were open for these guys, making sure that they're not going to kidnap me and take me over to Lime Lake. So I'm doing pretty good. We announced our engagement in March of '74, and I'm in my room studying, and I get a call, or one of the guys on the floor says, "Ron, my door won't open. I think the lock is broken." And so I said, "Oh, okay." And so I went over, and I remember kneeling down, looking at this lock, trying to figure it out, and I felt this presence. And I look over my shoulder, and here's all the guys on Ormston 3 smiling at me. So they grab me, put me in the car, take me to Lime Lake, strip me down, throw me in to Lime Lake, and this was in March. So the ice is still floating in Lime Lake. It was freezing. And so they take off. And so I'm left alone. And so good thing I had my towel and my clothes in the bag, because I would have been in trouble.